In Soweto, and this is a story we've been tracking since last week. Government today is hoping attempts to sow peace between e-hailing and minibus taxi drivers will actually bear fruit. Industry heads met earlier to discuss the ongoing crisis in an attempt to find a resolution. You'll know, of course, that a number of e-hailing vehicles have been torched in and around Soweto in recent days. Well, eNCA reporter Heidi Giokos has been on that story. She was at the meeting today and she joins us now in studio. Heidi, thank you so much. I want to ask you a question first of all, because we've seen days of vehicles being torched. We've seen tempers flare. Tell us who was at this meeting and what was the atmosphere?
Yes, so today was a meeting that was actually scheduled from last week, Friday already. We do understand that the MMC for Roads and Transport in the city of Johannesburg decided to schedule this meeting for today. That's why it's rather unfortunate that we saw those violent scenes from yesterday at Protea Glen, but it was the MMC for Roads and Transport as well as the MMC for Public Safety in the city of Johannesburg. It was a number of community leaders and community members, but most importantly, it was the National E-Hailing Association, the Soweto E-Hailing United Association, as well as the Soweto Taxi Service that is, of course, implicated in all of this because the Soweto E-Hailing Association has accused the local taxi association of targeting e-hailing drivers and vehicles. The atmosphere was quite tense, Sally, and I'm going to say this, but I've never seen so many guns in my life because there was a high security presence. Many bodyguards and private security were at the Kliptown police station. And I guess it just speaks to the nature of what's being discussed. This is normally what happens when we see taxi associations or e-hailing associations present and having these discussions. It was robust and eventually then moved into a private meeting where the media was not allowed.
All right. So what are they saying? What are the issues? I mean, you know, we heard yesterday from various parties and government is being blamed for not regulating this industry. Did that come up?
Yes, once again, the National E-Hailing Association was present today. They are once again blaming government. They have indicated that they will not be pointing fingers at the local taxi association. This is the National E-Hailing Association that is saying this, whereas the Soweto E-Hailing Association is saying there has been conflict for some time. Drivers have been intimidated and threatened for some time, and they believe it can only come from the local taxi association. What we do understand from the National E-Hailing Association is that they believe government should have regulated the sector long ago. It becomes very difficult to prove that you are a registered Uber or Bolt driver and that you're part of the e-hailing sector when government themselves have not formalized a way to regulate the sector. I think what's also a little bit concerning is the fact that you have the taxi association saying there's no structure here. Uber and Bolt drivers have gone as far as creating their own little rank, their own Uber and Bolt rank, which the taxi industry is saying, but that's not actually allowed and that's not the way we understand e-hailing to operate. Let's listen to what the National E-Hailing Association had to say at that meeting.
Many people within e-hailing are operating with a slip to prove that they've applied for a permit. But that permit has never come. And some of these slips are more than 5, 6, 7 years old, waiting for feedback from Department of Road and Transportation. They, at some stage, were under a moratorium. At some stage, they were trying to establish a proper permitting regime. We're told they are waiting for the law to be signed in. So again, it goes back to government to say, you need to regulate and put a permitting regime in place so that whether it is the marshals, security guards, law enforcement, SAPs, they are able to identify this is a legitimate operator, this isn't a legitimate operator. Now, with the people who are queuing at malls, what we've come to understand, they are not operating legally. They use the apps to do a price estimate. And once they have a price estimate, they negotiate with the customer based on that. And this process is now undermining the traditional minibus taxi industry, who has a right to be at the malls.
Yeah, so they've got to make a plan because, Heidi, the last thing we need is more violent clashes. So what are they going to do?
Yes, I think before we speak about what they are going to do and what the short-term solution is, I just want to emphasize the fact that the Local Taxi Association was present today, and once again they are washing their hands clean. They are denying any sort of attack or violence against any Uber or Bolt driver. They are just calling for some sort of structure, and that's why they were present today, to understand what's going on. The MMC for Roads and Transport, together with the MMC for Public Safety, were present today. They engaged with the media, but they also engaged with the e-hailing drivers. The solution for now is, if you are a Bolt or Uber driver and you are operating within Soweto, you need to drop and pick up outside the mall. You are no longer allowed to go inside the mall until Friday, until they have their third meeting where they're able to establish how they're going to solve this problem. Unless you are transporting an elderly person or a disabled person, you will then have to, you will then be allowed to actually go inside. And I think the reason for the solution is because they're trying to avoid this illegal operation that's happening, where they're claiming that those that aren't registered on Uber and Bolt are offering cheaper rides to customers. They're lining up as though they are taxis, and this is what's causing the tension between the actual taxi association and the e-hailing association. Let's listen to what the MMC for Public Safety had to say about the situation.
The taxi association and also the e-hailing reps, they said that they are not fighting with each other. That's what they said. They said the taxi and the hailing, no, we are not fighting. That's why now maybe there might be a third force. That's why I say that as a public safety with JMPD and SEPS, we are going to the ground. Our undercover unit is already there now to check what is this third force, who's doing which. Because both of them, no, we are not fighting. Because e-hailing used an app, and the taxis, they are, they've been operating. So now, that's why now the MC said that we have agreed that there's an establishment of the committee. All stakeholders, the taxi association, the e-hailing, ourselves were there as MMCs. And also you've got the CPFs, you've got the patroller that will be there, and you've got all the other NGOs. They even said the Soweto Parliament will be there. Then we're going to have another follow-up meeting now to ensure that now we put in systems in place what must actually happen. Remember, this thing was actually happening before, where, I mean, at the airport, there was the same thing. And so now we're going to look at the lessons learned everywhere and implement it. But we are taking charge now. We actually put into our commitment. We've spoken to the chief of police. We're going to be manning up JMPD. Our IOC unit, our K9 units are going to be inside there to ensure that now we actually survey the area and ensure that everything is actually fine.
All right, so there's a plan in place sort of to keep that separation, make sure that the e-hailing people are not in the wrong place, and then hopefully some more permanent plans on Friday. But of course, as we heard, definitely more policing in the area to make sure it's safe. Heidi Giokos, thank you so much for updating us on that story. Let's move